All right, so today I'm down here in Moses Lake at Shade Tree Customs. I'm going to talk with Larry Canman, the owner, check out some of the rides that they got here that they're doing some work on, seeing what projects are sitting out back, and have some fun, talk some cars. Keep watching this episode of How Do You Hot Rod? All right, Larry, thanks for having me down today.
Yep.
So we're here at Shade Tree Customs.
Yep.
How long have you had this business?
May will be 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you always been at this spot, or did you move from
Well, we did 3 years in another location under another name with a business partner that also did upholstery.
Oh, okay.
It's just we got too crowded with trying to be clean for upholstery and dirty for the rest, you know. So we kind of split apart, and now we have two separate businesses. So I've been at this particular thing for 10 years and just 7 at this location.
Nice. So out in the shop right now, what do you got out there?
We've got a 1950s Chevy Style Line.
Okay.
And we also have a 63 Chevy C10 pickup.
The blue one there.
The blue one, yeah. And then in the back we have a 57 Chevy.
So what are you doing on the ones that are in the shop right now?
The blue Chevy 63 C10, that one, we've done pretty much everything to that truck except for the paint and body.
Okay.
We had to align the body. They didn't align the body. We had to take the front clip off because all the beautiful bodywork they didn't replace the core support.
No.
And it was rusted out, and the headlights were bouncing off the front bumper. And so we replaced that first, and then did all the bushings, and then rewired under the hood. Then he decided he wanted power brakes while it was here, so we did that. Then disc brakes. Then, you know, it just kept going from there, you know. And now it's got a brand new 462 horsepower engine in it now. We're getting ready to do all custom exhaust. We're rebuilding all that. A new rear end, another 12-bolt posi going in it. You know, so there's a lot going on that truck. It's getting close. So.
Nice. And then the Chevy.
This one
50.
is back. We've done numerous things to it. The customer bought it in California and has had a bunch of upgrading done to it since he's gotten it. We did disc brakes on the front. He's got some pinstriping done from Lance Jasper pinstriping, you know. There's another guy out in Othello did a bunch of lace work and whatnot on the roof. And right now it's here because it's got exhaust issues. It's got a broken exhaust, so we're fixing that.
Does it still have the original engine in there?
Yeah, it's just the old 235.6, you know.
Okay. And then you've got the blue 57 in here?
Yeah, the 57 Chevy, that one's in here. Another one a customer bought recently. It's winding out too high on the highway, and he wants to be able to just more like cruise it and drive it wherever he wants to go, you know. And so it has a 9-inch rear end in it already, so we put a 3.0 ring and pinion in it to bring the RPMs down on the highway, and he's got some power steering issues we're trying to resolve.
Okay.
You know.
So you guys don't just build the car, you actually fix problems that existing ones already have.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then you said you do some of the newer rigs too?
Yeah, we have like the Snap-on Zeus, you know, for it's like a $10,000 setup out there for doing diagnostics on new cars. Yeah.
So what got you into cars to start with?
Well, a long time ago when I was little, about 9 or so, my mom remarried. a mechanic that worked at the Chevy dealership in Wenatchee, and he was into old cars, but he was a mechanic. So the mechanicking thing rubbed off on me, you know, and he always had a Model A, a Model T, a GTO, or a 55 wagon Chev, you know, or something that he always had. He was always wheeling and dealing and had a classic car all the time, you know, and so that kind of hooked me, you know. And about the time I turned 11, I was already standing there with the flashlight getting yelled at and stuff, you know, go grab me this wrench, you know, those kind of things.
Yep.
It just kind of rubbed off, you know, and for years I had one car in mind that I wanted to build, and it was a 64 Olds F85 Cutlass. I just had to have that car, you know, and so I spent 25 years looking for one. I finally found it, built the car, and then I didn't want it anymore. So then all of a sudden I went from muscle car to 50s, and it just changed my whole world after that, you know. Yeah. Then it was just a hobby, you know, and I'd fix people's cars in the backyard. They called me the shade tree mechanic forever, you know, and
so that's where the name comes from.
That's where the name of the company came
all right.
from. Yeah, so the hobby just kind of turned into what you see here, you know.
The bicycles. How did this get going?
Well, that same business partner was tinkering around with one, you know, and I got jealous. I wanted one because he had one, you know, and you know, you see somebody else with something neat and you're like, I wish I had one of those, and so I got one. And then the owner of Signs Now, Wally, he was into these. He invited us over to look at a pile of parts to buy from him, and I took my car trailer over there, and for $100 we got a big old mountain of frames and forks and stuff, and I built a bunch of bikes out of them. And when I moved over here, I started hanging them up like you see here, and now people just come to me with them when they find them and ask if I want to buy them, and I've got like 30 of them now.
Damn.
Yeah. Those trophies are vintage trophies.
Okay.
They all came from one car.
Really?
Yep. 53 Oldsmobile.
Okay.
A customer brought in, and when he bought it, it came with all these trophies.
Huh.
And it won them all in Yakima at the Speedway.
Really?
Okay, back in the day, back in like the 60s, it won all those trophies. The customer, or the person sold the car to the customer with the trophies because they were part of the history of the car.
Right.
And that customer is actually a friend of mine, and he no longer has the car, but he kept the trophies, and he brought them over here for me to display. So they're on loan. It's kind of like a museum pieces, you know.
Yeah.
Talked to the original owner that called him and wanted the car back, and he goes, I don't have the trophies or the car, and he goes, but I know where both are. And so that person was okay with, I think, getting like 3 or 4 of the trophies back.
Yeah.
And I think they're gonna just let me keep the rest of them.
That's awesome. Now, right above me, what do we got here? Fiberglass?
That's a 58 Corvette.
Okay.
That one is a fiberglass body that would have went on a go-kart.
Okay.
And how you got that body was if you were a father with your son at the Chevy dealership and you were looking at buying a Corvette, they would throw this in to cinch the deal.
Aha!
This was an incentive to buy a Corvette.
I'm guessing there's not many of those.
No, and especially not in this good a shape. You can find them online here and there.
Yeah.
But this one doesn't have a single crack in it, and I just had to have it.
Wow.
You know, and it was a lot easier than hanging a real car on the ceiling.
That's true.
And it's got the look, you know.
Yeah,
so,
it fits.
And it's vintage, you know.
What do you have for cars? I saw some out front.
Oh my goodness. At the present time.
That's the best way to go about this.
Yeah, because I can't even remember what I've owned. I've got a 50 Chevy Fleetline. I've got a 74 Beetle, 58 Ford station wagon that used to be a police or a fire chief vehicle, so
Really?
it came with special ordered power windows, which is a really rare option, I guess.
In 58.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the station wagon, it's basically modeled after a T-Bird. The hood opens backwards and everything, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's got the clamshell back end, you know. It opens like this.
Yeah.
It's a pretty unique car, you know.
Huh.
Then I've got a 66 El Camino that I got. It's been in our family since I was about 7.
Okay.
And so I bought it from my uncle, and then my wife adopted it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to build it for her because she likes to drive it. And you can drive it with your pinky. It just drives so nice.
Oh,
it
wow.
stops amazing. It's one of the better cars we have as far as drivability and ease
Okay.
of drivability, you know. And she's got arthritis, so now I'm building the cars so she can drive them too. So I'm putting automatics and everything now. I know a lot of people are against that and they like their stick shifts, but I'm a cruiser, not a racer. So, you know, I used to love to go fast, but now it doesn't matter. I just want to drive them and enjoy them, you know. And I've discovered that since my wife is now into it and she won her first trophy with that car,
Oh, yeah?
now I can pretty much do whatever I want with mine. There's no questions anymore. I just have to do something to hers once in a while, you know. And then we have a 1928 Essex Super 6.
Ah, yes. Tell me about that.
Well, that one's got kind of a weird story for me. I got it by accident.
Okay.
I bought a 66 Mercury Parklane. It's a really ugly car, okay, in my opinion. There's people that like them, but it's the one that has the back window that's electric, and it's kicked back the backwards, you know, where most go this way, this one goes in, and the window rolls down behind the seat. Okay, so it's a unique feature, but it's still, to me, a really ugly car. And this is why I say accident, because I bought that car by accident. The guy kept coming by and trying to sell it to me, and I wouldn't buy it. I kept telling him it's a $500 car to me, you know, and he wanted $1,500 for it, $2,000, you know, and the third time he showed up, I said, I keep telling you the best I'll do is $500, and he said okay. And so then I suddenly bought a car, you know. When I say something, I stick to it, you know. So I didn't go, oh, you know, so I bought the car. Well, I fixed the problem you was having with it. It had a miss on one of the cylinders, you know, so I fixed it. And turns out I found somebody that wanted it way worse than me, sold it for $2,500 like 3 days later. So then I found a 41 Chevy in Smoky Point for $2,500.
Well, there you go.
The money I just got. And it ran and drove. That just never happens. So I got in my truck. The next day I was in Smoky Point buying a car. I brought it back here, dropped it in the parking lot, put a for sale on it, put it on Facebook. About 4 or 5 days later, a guy approaches me with $6,800 and that Essex. And that's how I ended up with that car.
The money and the car.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yeah. Off of a $500 accidental purchase. That's how it all happened.
You wives out there, you cannot argue here anymore. That right there is proof that this works.
It does. It does. It doesn't work all the time, but I have things like that happen to me from time to time because of the business I'm in, you know.
Now, you were telling me you did something a little different with that Essex. Electrical.
Yeah. Turns out the older steel is a bit more brittle, and a lot of times you can take and convert a 6-volt car to 12 volts and not have a lot of problems because the starters can handle it. You just throw a GM 1-wire or whatever you're using in there and change all your bulbs and resistors for your gauges and whatnot, and you're good to go. Well, this car broke the starter right off the get-go. And you can't buy parts for an Essex, not new parts. There's not a single place selling brand new anything for that car. And so you find people that have the same cars and you buy parts from them.
Right.
So I wasn't able to source a starter, however, and it was the Bendix that broke.
Okay.
And so I went online and found similar Bendixes, and I ended up buying a Ford Model A Bendix. Basically, it's one of these, except it's got a big spring in the center.
Okay.
Okay, and turns out it's the same spring, so I was able to modify mine a little bit and actually used the whole Bendix system from Model A to fit on the Essex and make it work.
The body of that starter is still the Essex one?
Yes, the body still works. It still turns. It's just it toasted the Bendix system in it, and I was able to rebuild it just using a Model A.
Interesting.
And so once I did that, I was told by an old timer that owns one of these that the metal is way more brittle back then and the ring gear won't take it. So what I'm doing now is I'm building a 12 volt / 6 volt system. Basically, it's going to have a 12 volt battery and a 6 volt battery under the floor where they go. And I will be taking, matter of fact, I'll be taking this device right here. It's a DC to DC converter. You can buy these online for about 40 bucks.
Okay.
And I'll be having a 12 volt input, and it'll output 6 volts at 25 amps.
Okay.
A lot of your battery chargers are 25 amp or less, unless you have a start mode on them anyways. So this, with the turn of the key, will turn on. It'll be hooked to the 12 volt battery all the time, but it won't draw a source till the key comes on, because I'll put a relay in line. So now I'll have a combo 12 volt, 6 volt charging system. The 6 volt battery, all its job is going to be is to start the car. The 12 volt system will run the lighting and everything else, so I'll be able to see when I'm driving it in the nighttime, you know?
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, so with a little bit of an ingenuity, I've figured out a way to do a combo charging system.
Right on.
Yeah.
And besides that starter and changing over the 12 volt, everything else is pretty much stock on it?
Yeah, it's a completely stock Essex Super 6. In person, I've only seen 2.
Okay.
I know there's more out there. They are kind of a rare car, but I've only seen 2. Otherwise, they're usually rat rods, because you can't buy anything for them. You usually end up finding a body somewhere in a field, and they just take the body and put it on something else and turn it into a rat rod, you know. And this
Chevy
one's too
350.
nice, and it's only a 2-door, and I can't hack it up. So I got to keep it original. The straight flathead 6 is in it. It runs, it drives. The mechanical rod and lever braking system still works.
Wow.
You know, so there's no hydraulic fluid or anything, so you don't have to bleed the brakes. You just drive it and use them, you know. And so, yeah, it's still got the spoke wheels, the wood spoke wheels and everything, you know.
And you can still get those shoes relined.
Oh, yeah. I can get the brakes, but that's pretty much it. You know, you're not buying anything else. I can buy tires and tubes and stuff, but as far as other parts go, I have to source them from whoever has them, you know. And there's interest groups on Facebook and stuff like that, you know. And I'm on whatever car I buy. That's one of the first things I do is I go find the people that like them and become friends with them so I can get parts.
And potentially buyers.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Now, as far as cars go, I probably had quite a few through the years. What's one dream car of yours? Whether you have it or not?
You know, at first it was the 64 Cutlass F85, but once I got the bug out of my system, it wasn't anymore. Muscle cars aren't really my thing now. I like them, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And I would have no problem owning one. It's just my flavor is now 50s and older.
Okay.
You know, we dress the part at car shows, you know, with the cuffed pants, you know, and the rockabilly kind of scene is what we're into. We listen to rockabilly music, you know. Our wives dress in the little skirts with the little fluffy whatever you call them that go underneath of them and stuff.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
This whole scene is amazing. The experience, if you dive into it full on, you're gonna have a blast of your life. It's just great, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right.
Matter of fact, the car club I'm in, they're probably more responsible for me being in this than I am, you know, because they were already in this, you know. So the rockabilly scene was new to me, but I finally felt like I fit somewhere, you know, once I got into it.
Yeah.
I really want to buy the place before I put anything else into it.
Right.
And there's an empty lot next to me right here that also belongs to the same guy, and I told him if I buy, I need that lot too. And I would probably put another building there and put a spray booth on that, you know. That would get me the expansion I need, you know, because I've already got a giant bullpen in the back.
Yeah.
You know, it's all fenced in with barbed wire and cameras and lighting and everything else, you know, so it's pretty secure back there. Not from the weather, but from everybody else. And every day I get to work on something cool and totally different, you know, and where else can you do that?
Keeps you interested, keeps you into it.
Yeah. And there's always different things to do, you know. The upgrades they want, your challenge is to give it to them, figure out how, and do it safely, you know, at the same time. And so, you know, there's daily challenges, and it makes it way more interesting than any other job I've ever had, you know. And
cool.
So the hobby turned into work, but I like it, you know. Now, if you're buying upholstery already made and you just want your seats reskinned, I'll do that.
Okay.
Because I even have an upholstery machine. I am dabbling, but I'm not an upholsterer, not at this time.
Your car will get some of the work done to it, but
yes.
Not gonna do...
I get some practice under my belt is what I do on my things. Once I'm confident enough, I start doing it for other people.
Okay.
You know, and that's kind of how I do it, you know. And the bodywork thing was self-taught, but I went to some classes last winter after work at night.
Okay.
That a friend of mine was offering for free in Ephrata.
Okay.
And I learned a lot from that guy. He's got his little side gig called Har's Cars, but he's kind of quit doing it for other people, but he still likes to spread the knowledge.
Okay.
And so every winter he'll get a car and work on it for somebody, and he'll bring in 4 or 5 people to learn how to do everything his way, you know?
Okay.
And so I actually had that guy teach me other ways of doing body work other than self-taught, and I've been using them this year, and I'm pretty confident now at this point. And so now we're starting to take on jobs for other people doing body work too.
Okay.
The upholstery is still on the back burner. At this point, I kind of, if I'm going to get into upholstery, I kind of want to hire a guy to do that. So that's his gig.
Okay.
You know, in our shop, it'll still be our gig, but I won't have to go out of house anymore. You know,
you're gonna need a little more area though.
Yeah. The upgrade for space is definitely an important one. You know? Upholstery, that's a room right there for it, but it's not big enough. You know, so once we get cruising on that, I'm gonna have to probably convert some area out here. You know, back half of this bay or something like that, or move. You know, I don't want to move though. I like the spot. I mean,
it's right on the main drag here.
Right, it's on Broadway. You know, my name's Larry, and I'm on Broadway. I'm friends with Sir Mix-a-Lot. You know, and people are like, "Since you're friends with him, did he write that song about you?" I'm like, "No, he did not." No. A lot of your hot rod guys work on their own stuff, so this is a hard world to break into until you gain their confidence. And that's kind of where I'm at now, is I think I finally got a lot of people's confidence at this point, and now we're starting to get super busy. So.
You've had the business, shown what you can do, proven it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we just get better. So the more you bring us, the better we're going to get at it.
Yep.
You know? So.
All right, well, Larry, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
There he is, Larry from Shade Tree Customs down here in Moses Lake on Broadway. Gotta check him out.
Yeah, do that.
Now, one last question, Larry. In your own words, how do you hot rod?
Kind of hot rod in slow motion these days.
Yeah?
Yeah. I got tired of breaking all my stuff, you know. I had 11 hot rods at one point, and I could jump into any one of them any day of the week and just drive it.
Yeah.
Well, what ends up happening is you're fixing all of those 11 cars, and you never get any farther forward on them. And so I decided, rather than having as much, don't get me wrong, I still have a lead foot, but I don't put it to the metal as much as I used to.
Yeah.
So that's how I hot rod now. I'm more of a cruiser, you know.
Awesome.
So.
All right. Thanks for watching this episode of How You Hot Rod with Larry down at Shade Tree Customs in Moses Lake. All right, folks, thanks for watching this episode of How Do You Hot Rod. If you'd like to be featured on a future episode, please contact me either through howdoyouhotrod@yahoo.com or through the Facebook page, How Do You Hot Rod. Everybody have a good one, and I'm the Buick Man. I'll be in the garage.